Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Jets, episode number 241 of the pod here. Getting into it after a frustrating week 4 and leading into a really big game that the New York Jets have against the Minnesota Vikings coming up, which is going to be a tough battle on the road in London. It's not a home game for either one of these teams. But we will get into all of that. We will get into your voicemails as well. A lot of frustrations, and what I'm gathering is, feels like most Jet fans are done with Robert Saleh, and believe me, that we're going to get into that a lot in the voicemails. And you know, I did in the post game. I let my feelings out on what I thought of the performance from the coaching staff, and then on Monday I did a video on why I think Robert Saleh, unfortunately, is showing why he might not be the answer. Why he likely isn't the answer for the New York Jets at the head coaching position, but. I just kind of feel like the Jets put themselves in a really bad spot this week, which is super frustrating. The New York Jets are sitting at 2-2 now. They had an opportunity to get themselves to 3-1 with a winnable game at home against the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos were coming into this game sitting at 1-2. Their offense really hasn't looked all that great. And it didn't look great again against the Jets. They only scored 10 points. But offensively, the Jets couldn't do a damn thing. They were not well coached. We know the drill at this point. But again, they're at 2-2. I guess the positive, and I'll say positive with like a question mark, is that the rest of the division lost. Like the Bills got blown out on Sunday Night Football, so they're sitting at 3-1. But how do you not think about what the Jets could have pulled in with a virtual tie with the Buffalo Bills at 3-1? Going into a much tougher part of their schedule now. But I don't know how to feel about this because, again, this is an opportunity, or we thought the Jets had an opportunity at the beginning of their schedule with games against, the Titans, the Patriots, and the Denver Broncos to stack some early wins. And then you have some much tougher games. Like, honestly, before the season started, when the schedule came out, one of my predictions was I thought the Jets, could very well lose to the Minnesota Vikings on the road in London and lose against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. And if the Jets do lose both of those games, like I predicted them to, well, that means they're sitting at 3-4 through their first 7 games, which is not good enough. That's not where I wanted them to be. I was hoping the Jets would be at worst 4-3 and at best maybe 5-2, somewhere in that range. After the Jets' first 7 games of the year. But unless they go on this absolute heater of a run and rip off wins against the Vikings, the Bills, and the Steelers, by the way, Vikings 4-0, they look like the best team in the NFC. The Bills 3-1, took a tough loss, and the Steelers looked like they came back to life a little bit. But again, those are 3 teams with winning records and 3 significantly better coached teams than the New York Jets, which that has to be a storyline, and that has to be something that we talk about when previewing and prefacing, getting ourselves ready for these games. With the Minnesota Vikings, the mismatch that the Jets are going to have going up against Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores, the head coach and DC duo, is a lot better than the Jets head coach and offensive coordinator duo. And the reason why I picked out the Jets offensive coordinator versus the defensive coordinator is because O'Connell's an offensive guy. Flores is the defensive guy. Saleh is the defensive guy. Yes, Ulbrich has also been there as well, but Hackett's the offensive guy. And Hackett versus Flores, I think, is a mismatch. And Saleh versus O'Connell, I also think, is a mismatch, which again is not great. So it feels like to me, like must win is tough to throw around this early in the year. And maybe this game in particular isn't must win, but I think the Jets need to take 2 of their next 3 games and get to 4-3 through their first 7 to keep this team afloat. I think if they drop to under 500 7 games into their season, if you're sitting at, again, if you're 3-4 or 2-5, that's some real panic territory. It is. And we know Woody Johnson doesn't ever make changes. This staff or this organization doesn't make in-season changes, but it would just feel like your season is slipping through the fingers. And it's very ironic how quickly things could change in the NFL. Like we were just talking about last week, a really impressive win that the Jets had over a team that has owned them for so long in the New England Patriots. And we were excited about a 24-3 win. But it was like job's not done. Just got to keep rolling and keep the positive momentum going, because you're looking down the line and looking at some of these teams that you're coming up against, and the schedule is not going to be easy. But nothing is guaranteed, which I think is what we've learned so far in the NFL through the first 4 weeks of the year. The Jets had a really bad loss to Denver. The Baltimore Ravens had a really bad loss to the Raiders. That was pointed out to me on social media. And it's very fair to bring that up in the conversation. The part, though, that I will give some pushback when someone brings that up is, well, yeah, the Ravens did lose a game that they probably should have won against a team like the Las Vegas Raiders. The reason why the teams like that get the benefit of the doubt is because of who's coaching them. John Harbaugh has been a very good coach in this league for a really, really long time. He's won a Super Bowl. The Ravens are perennial playoff contenders every single year. And they are going to get the benefit of the doubt. And they have a quarterback who won the MVP last year. And look, I get it. Like Rodgers has won an MVP, multiple MVPs in his career, and as recently as 2021, but they're not, and they being the Jets, are not going to get that same benefit of the doubt as some of these other teams do. Again, just because we haven't seen them have that success yet, they still have to prove it. And again, great that they beat up on a New England team. That's awesome. That's what you want to see. But then to go right back to losing a game where you had extra time off to prepare for, at home, you don't travel, this and that, it's frustrating. It really, really is. And the funny thing is, and if you look at how the NFL has played out this year and how the Jets have looked so far this season, it would be so ironic if they look amazing versus New England, then look like absolute dog water against Denver, and then come back and beat Minnesota. That would just be what is this team? I have absolutely no idea what this team is. And again, the Vikings have been firing on all cylinders. They, Sam Darnold's at quarterback, and he's looked good for them. And that's just another storyline from this game that, frankly, I just don't want to have to deal with. With how he's performed and played so far through the first 4 games of the year. They've put up 28, 23, 34, and 31 points. They beat the Texans, who's a good team. They beat the 49ers, who's a good team. They beat the Packers, who's a good team. Are they going 15-2, or are they coming back down to earth here maybe a little bit? And is this the week that it could happen? These London games are always weird, which is why I pointed out this one as a potential loss for the Jets, because going into this year, I thought the Jets are a more talented team than the Minnesota Vikings, and that maybe it would be the Jets who would be caught sleeping this week. Instead, it was last week, or the one that just passed, where the Jets were caught sleeping, and Minnesota's just continuing to roll. Now, they did almost blow a lead to the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay did try to come back in this game. It was a 31-29 final. But again, how could you not give the coaching the nod to Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores? They are, on paper at least, should coach circles around both Robert Saleh and Nathaniel Hackett. The irony in all of this is it's the NFL, and you just never freaking know. We don't know. Any team can win on any given Sunday, so I'm not going to come on here and be like, yep, Jets are definitely losing. They have no shot of winning, and then also saying the Jets are definitely winning this game and they're getting themselves right this week, because for sure the Vikings are going to have that letdown game. Don't know. We have no idea what's going to happen this week. And it just, again, it goes back to this frustration that I have, because you could have positioned yourself in a spot where, if you won this past week and still took 2 out of 3, then you're sitting at 5-2 instead of 4-3. Or if you did lose 2 of your next 3 games against some tougher opponents, you'd give yourself a little bit of a window to work with, and then you're sitting at 4-3, which isn't great, but is certainly better than 3-4 and under 500. So I'm a little bit concerned is all. I'm not saying don't bother watching the final 13 games of the year for the Jets. There's no chance they're going to win anything this year. They have, and we've seen Robert Saleh put up good performances in the past. They've beaten the Buffalo Bills when they are not on the same tier. You know, we watched Zach Wilson do it in 2022 and 2023 with teams and rosters that are not as good as the rosters that are now. We saw them beat the Eagles in impressive fashion last year. We saw them beat the Texans at home. But there's also just these games where they are going to have these clunkers because they are not consistently well coached, which is, again, it adds to the frustration level with this team because they do have a high ceiling. But as we've been saying all week, it feels like the coaching staff is holding them back a little bit. And you guys seem to agree with me based on the voicemails, which we'll get into in a second here. But they need to start changing the narrative. So while I won't say that this one in particular is a must win, I do think that they need to take 2 or 3. And if they drop back-to-back games and fall under 500 right now, probably not ideal. I think you're not best case scenario because losing a divisional game would stink, but what would make a little bit more sense, I guess, for this Jets team and make you feel slightly better is if they beat Minnesota and they beat Pittsburgh, 2 teams who you would, I guess, theoretically think like pretty decent wins, but you lose a tight game to Buffalo. Can you live with that? It would stink. Again, losing that divisional game would really, really suck. So maybe, I don't know. I feel like I'm talking myself in circles. Maybe I will convince myself that it'd be better to lose against Minnesota because it's a non-conference game and then you win your 2 conference games. But well, how about let's not make it hard on ourselves. Just win. Just win everything. Why not? But again, this coaching staff not really giving you a reason to believe that that's actually going to happen in this one. Let's get to voicemails. There's a lot this week that we want to go through, a lot of venting. We'll start the venting with our guy Alex from Kansas.
Hold on, Matt O'Leary. This is Alex Robson calling from Kansas.
What's up, man?
Oh, boy. Do I have a lot on my mind after this loss. This, first off, is an unacceptable performance. Just purely unacceptable. Like, the team and the talent that we have, these are games that we have to win. And we choked this one. We completely blew it. I understand, now, again, unacceptable, but the offensive struggles I kind of get with the weather being what it was at MetLife. It was gross. It was sloppy. It was not a good day to be an offensive player. Doesn't excuse some of the issues, but that gets into my bigger point. Once again, this team comes out unprepared and undisciplined. And this has been a theme since minute 1 of Robert Saleh getting here. We know what the weak link is. It is Robert Saleh and his undisciplined coaching style. It is his staff. It is the weak link. And it has been for as long as we can remember. How many times has he mismanaged the clock? How many times has his teams come out so unbelievably unprepared? We had 10 days to prepare for this game. And I get it. The weather sucked. It's what it is. I get that. But how do you have more penalty yards than offensive yards at one point? It is ridiculous. I hope to God Aaron Rodgers is okay. It looked like he was struggling. Obviously, I'm calling just after the game ended, so I don't know. Just beyond frustrated. I am done with Robert Saleh. Just fed up with Robert Saleh. Get him out of this building. I'm done dealing with him and his mismanagement of his inability to coach. Get him out. Give Ben Johnson a blank check. Get him in from Detroit. I do not care what you have to do. But we will not go anywhere as far as this team has the ability to go with a liability like Robert Saleh. Appreciate you, man, as always. Go Jets.
Yeah, thank you, man. I hear your frustration on it. I really get it. And I'm not, clearly this isn't what you were saying, but so don't take this the wrong way. I don't want to even hear about the weather because we've seen we've seen the Jets play in the rain before and their offense score more than 9 points. I'm not saying they had to put up 40 in this game, but they had their opportunities to score. At least the one on the goal line. I mean, I am still not, we're days removed from this game, and I am still thinking about, when I close my eyes at night, I am thinking about Nathaniel Hackett dialing up a pass to Solomon effing Thomas on 3rd and goal from the 1. And then they get up to go, they line up to go for it on 4th and goal from the 1. The right decision, by the way. And then they get a false start penalty. Undisciplined, not ready. There's no other way to put it. They were unprepared to play after having 10 days to prep for this. If they put up that kind of performance after playing on a Monday night, maybe you justify it, but that ain't fair. That's not fair to do that. Even if it was on a short week or whatever, it's not. It was an extended period of time. It was essentially a mini bye, and they got absolutely destroyed by it. Unreal. Tanner from Long Island's next. What do you got, Tanner?
Hey, Matt. It's Tanner from Long Island calling right after that disgusting performance. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat it. I mean, we had the ball on the goal line and couldn't score a touchdown in the beginning of the game, and then just ugliness throughout. I think, the penalties, I don't even know where to start, but I think it really comes down to the coaching staff. I mean, you can't tell me you trusted Saleh ever in these past few years with him, and this just, put it right out in the open in front of us, how inept he is. Team's undisciplined. They don't know what to do. They're lucky Rodgers makes some plays. They hit on a guy like Braylon Allen who makes some plays, but the amount of times they shot themselves in the foot and just did the wrong thing in important spots, it was horrible. That was disgusting. I don't want to hear about the rain. We've seen Mike White go over 300 yards in the rain, so I don't want to hear it. Horrible, disgusting. See if we can put it back together against Darnold next week. Go Jets.
Great point with Mike White. He did it against Chicago, right? He had a stellar game. The Jets ran up the score. The excuses are over. And one of the things that I've tried to hold out for with Robert Saleh is, okay, we had the bad quarterback excuse. That's fair. This was the Jets' plan. They wanted to see how this would work with Aaron Rodgers. Let's see if he fixes those issues. For instance, being unprepared and not ready to play in a game with extra rest. And the first opportunity, the very, very first opportunity, can't do it against a significantly inferior opponent at home. Yeah, their defense is good. They do. The Denver Broncos have a good defense, even after losing Alex Singleton. I was surprised that they were as dominant as what they were in the game. But it's not an excuse. It's not good enough. And I don't want to hear, we got to get the penalty straightened out again. Because this is something he said 3 games into his tenure in 2021. If that was an issue in 2021 with undisciplined penalties, and now you're 3 years later and you're still having the same issues with the improved roster, I don't know what else we could possibly say at this point. It's on the staff. It absolutely is on this coach. Vic from Florida.
Maddie, Vic from Florida.
What's up, dude?
Man, that was tough. I'm sorry for all you guys and Ryan and Green Bean and the rest of the Jets fans that came out to this game in the torrential downpour. That's horrible, man. You guys look forward to this all year and do that, but I hope it was still a good time. Hope the food was great. The tailgate was good. The bonds were good. The memories were good, but the game sucked, man. That was bad. Sean Payton calling out Nathaniel Hackett, he was right. Worst coaching job performance in NFL history, and here we go. He was right. How do we not punch it? What are we doing? Breece Hall is, non-existent today. We can't punch it in with Braylon, with him at the 1 yard line. Put Braylon Allen in. Do something. I don't know, man. That's just not good. I don't want to use the weather as an excuse. All these penalties. We must be the most undisciplined team in NFL history with all these penalties. Just drive killer after drive killer after drive killer. My goodness gracious. I don't know how long I could sit here and watch this team anymore. I feel like it's the same song and dance every other week. Probably not going to watch next week when Sam Darnold throws for 400 against us. That guy's on fire. And then if we get blown out by Buffalo, on Monday Night Football, maybe Robert Saleh gets fired, and it's back to square one. I really don't know, man. I hope you guys all have a safe trip back home. Everybody makes it home safe and gets out of this horrible weather and doesn't get sick or anything. But We got to figure this out. Let me know what you think. Got any of the play calling, what we can do moving forward.
I wish.
Brother. God bless. Bye.
Thank you, man. I really wish I had a good answer for you right now. Be like, oh, the Jets just need to do this, this, and this. It feels so defeated. And after, again, this is something that we do once a year. I don't get to see. None of us get to see each other all that often. We do a show every week. Myself, Ryan, and Green Bean. We see each other once a year, twice a year maybe. And the tailgate is always awesome. Talking to people in the parking lot. We got to go on the field at halftime. There's some really nice moments throughout the day. And then we just sit and watch a horrible excuse for a football game every single time. Green Bean said it in his show. I don't think we've seen a touchdown since 2021, since we've been doing this, since going to these games. It's really unbelievable when you think about it. I mean, the Jets-Chargers game last year was an absolute joke. That was horrific. This one was horrific. The opener against Baltimore stunk. That rained. It was rained all day that day too. The home opener was Zach Wilson's rookie year. It doesn't get any easier. For whatever reason, it just doesn't get any easier. Maybe we bring in the bad luck or something, but frustrating. Thank you again, Vic, on that one. Joe from Long Island.
Hey, Matt. Joe from Long Island calling. Is anybody really surprised that they came out and looked totally unprepared and just got completely outcoached? Because I'm not surprised at all that happened. This coaching staff is horrendous across the board. Horrible. They're never ready to play, totally undisciplined. No one's held accountable. It looks like they're surprised by everything. Ridiculous. One thing I am surprised about is what the hell's going on with Breece Hall? All year he's looked like trash. Doesn't look like the same guy. He looks very slow. He's making mental mistakes. He just looks totally lost. And Garrett Wilson, unfortunately, is just not a number one guy. You can't put him against a team's number one and expect him to win consistently. He's too little. He's just too much, shaking and jiving and nonsense. He's not strong enough to hold on to the ball through contact. I don't know. I'm disgusted. These guys, that was pathetic. Pathetic. You had 10 days to prepare. You got Aaron Rodgers, and you almost got him killed today. And he's probably limping at the end of the game. Whatever. Sorry, buddy. I'm furious. The defense was pretty good, even though they didn't be sacked. Right.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you calling in. It's I understand the first. Breece Hall has not looked like himself through the first 4 games of the year. He was averaging under a yard a carry yesterday. It was horrible, or not yesterday, this week. Horrible. Braylon Allen looked like the better back. So I think you have to, when that becomes obvious, you have to ride the hot hand, which is not what they did. And Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers not being on the same page through 4 weeks is annoying. Now, Patrick Surtain is, for my money, the number 1 or 2 corner in the NFL. So I'm not going to crush him for this week in particular, but you got to give me a better effort. And the fumble is not acceptable. The fumble's not acceptable. The Jets' 2 best offensive players are what they're supposed to be. Haven't been good enough yet, which is frustrating. I'm not bailing on either one of those 2 guys. But the Devontae Adams rumors being a thing, that can only help this team. Travis from Ohio, what do you got, brother?
Travis from Ohio. Hey, buddy. Sorry you had to go and see that shit show like the rest of us, but you had to in person, and oh my lord.
It was annoying.
We held them to -7 yards at half passing. We gave up 90 yards in penalties, but they had under 200 yards total on offense. Our stupid offense sucks. I mean, receivers didn't seem on the same page with Rodgers, and he's the only grown up in the room. I put this totally on coaching, because the personnel's there. We finally got to see Mike Williams flash. I don't know where Corley is. We aren't putting him in the game either. Just Reese wasn't good, but we had Braylon Allen rolling. This is totally on coaching. Totally on coaching. Not Albrecht, though. Because on defense, if you hold somebody to negative 7 yards at passing at half and 10 total points for the game, you win that game.
Yep.
10 times out of 10. There's no excuse for this bullshit. And they didn't even play Zach Wilson or have him active. So they can't even use that. Blow Nicks sucks. So does this Jets offense. And it's pathetic. I'm sorry. I love you, buddy. Hope you have a better rest of the week. At least Miami sucks. So, and New England sucks worse. So, love you. Bye.
Yeah,
Go Jets.
thank you, Travis. I appreciate you. It was so hard to watch, and like Bo Nix again. The Broncos won a game scoring 10 points with Bo Nix, their quarterback, throwing for 60 yards. I've never seen anything like that before. I really have never seen it. 60 yards, completed 48% of his passes. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. You just really can't. I'm having a hard time enjoying the Dolphins and New England suck, because I don't want that to be this year. And Travis, I know you're just trying to make me feel better, and I'm not holding this against you or like anyone who thinks this way at all. I'm just like, I don't want it to be, let's celebrate other teams being bad. I don't want to do that. I want to celebrate this team being good. And that's what this year is supposed to be about. And they blew a really good opportunity this past week, man. And they have a lot of people doubting this coaching staff. And it's hard to go against that logic with what we've seen from this coaching staff. And it's just an absolutely crushing way. Dove from Israel's up next. He says this might be the most crushing loss he's seen.
Hey, Matt, this is Dove from Israel. I'm usually an optimistic Jets fan. I've been following the sport for 10 years. But, man, that game, that ripped my soul out. I've never had witnessed a more heartbreaking loss, for me at least. I mean, it was terrible. This team is bad. It's bad. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like, the play calling, terrible. The coaching, terrible. I don't know where Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are. I mean, even the defense, which stepped up, they played well. But, like, how is the receiver wide open in the end zone like that? Why can't we punch it in the end zone at the 1 yard line on offense? Why are we having so many penalties? I don't get it. I mean, that was just – and then that missed field goal. I mean, Greg Zuerlein, I trusted him last year. I thought he was good. Even this year. But this year, man, like –
he hasn't been as good this year.
Maybe he's getting older. I don't know. But he's not the same either. I don't know, man. Like, I think we blow this whole thing out next season. I mean, like, I really do think that we have the Vikings, then we have the Steelers, the Bills. This can get ugly very quickly. So, yeah, I don't even know, man.
It could get ugly quick, which is why I said the next two and I appreciate the call. Why the next two, winning the next 2 out of 3 is almost a must, because if they go one out of their next 3 or 0 out of their next 3, the wheels will come off so gosh darn fast it won't even be funny. It won't even be funny. I can't believe it. I really can't. And it was a crushing loss. Most crushing, I don't know about that. Most crushing that I've been to? Maybe. Might be. That was miserable to sit out there in the rain. I don't know how I say this all the time, but I don't know how the season ticket holders do it, man. Doing that 9 times this season does not sound like an enjoyable experience, but if you like it, Good for you, man. Thank you, Dove, again for calling in. I'm kind of just there's a lot of calls this week, so I'm kind of just letting you guys vent and rip through. We need this venting session as much as anybody. I'm with you. It could get off the rails really quick. Neil from Jersey City.
Hey, what's going on, Matt? This is Neil from Jersey City. Just calling in this Monday after a devastating loss to the Broncos. I truly can't remember being this upset after a loss in some time. And, I mean, that's saying something, obviously, for this team. A lot of brutal losses over the years. But, I mean, you know, with this game, they win this game, they go to 3-1. They would have been tied with the Bills atop the AFC East. And, I mean, I just don't understand. I don't understand how the team could come out this flat. You know, with the mini bye coming, you know, playing against the Broncos who, you know, have a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. He didn't do anything all day. You know, I'm sure these are sentiments that really everyone feels, but I'm really at wit's end with Saleh. We continue to see this team come out flat after these bye weeks, mini byes, you name it. And it just makes no sense. I'm really tired of seeing it. I mean, we're not getting the production and the roster's there. And, that's just absolutely infuriating and unacceptable, frankly. So curious to your thoughts or comments on that. I in no way, shape, or form feel that this could be pinned on Zerline for missing that last minute field goal. The game should have been won way before that, and they didn't, obviously. But I'm curious if there's cause for concern with Zerline because he missed a kick in the New England game. Now he misses this, which 50 yards is by no means a chip shot, but he's certainly capable of that. He's looked shaky, and I'm curious if we should be concerned about that. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks so much. Go Jets.
Yeah, he definitely has not looked as strong, which I pointed out against in the New England game, and it got jumped on. That was the first kick he missed when I guess we were ignoring the preseason. We missed 2 against Carolina, I want to say. But a 50-yarder in the rain, like the Jets should not have put him in that situation. I agree 100% with Neil here. Like I'm not blaming Greg Zuerlein for the loss. He is pretty far down the pecking order on issues from this game. The coaching is towards the top. Play calling, which I guess also goes with coaching too, right? Offensive line play, lack of a running game. Wide receivers not being on the same page with the quarterback, some missed throws. Those to me are the biggest reasons why they lost this football game. And it's I don't know how that. I'm still shocked all these days later. Like I don't know how they let that happen, and they got to get they need this next one against Minnesota or at least Buffalo to make us feel a little bit better. I'm trying to make myself feel better by pointing to, and we also had just a couple calls ago, we had Travis do the same thing. He's like, hey, like Miami and New England don't look great. Every single team in the AFC East lost, but I just feel so down on the Jets because some of our biggest fears about this coaching staff were true in this game. But that narrative can quickly change if they pull out a surprise win in London. Peter from Hudson Valley, the beautiful Hudson Valley. What do you got, buddy?
Hey, Matt. It's Peter from up in the beautiful Hudson Valley. Yes. Exacerbated is the word of the day today. I think we're all in that same boat after an uninspired, flat, crap-ass performance by this team on Sunday in the rain at MetLife. Sorry that you guys had to be there for the Talking Jets group buy, and that's the performance they put on during the game. 4 games into 4 years with Robert Saleh, and this is the type of SHIT we're dealing with. I agree with you, Buffalo Jets fan, Ryan, a few of you guys who've been criticizing Saleh. I think I'm in the same boat at this point. Like, we've put enough rope out there with him, and it's time to yank it back. You would not see this type of performance when Herm Edwards was coach, when Rex Ryan was coach. Those fiery type guys. They need a kick in the ASS really badly.
They do.
And get themselves in line. This is not the way this team should be playing with this much talent. Two things I wanted to comment on. I do agree with you that the defense obviously played better, only giving up 10 points, but the run defense, not so great yesterday. I think when I was watching, it was mostly the second team line. So, when people like Hector and Holmes and Thomas and McKinley and Watts and those guys were in, it seemed like the Broncos saw that and just ran all over that part of the line. Because obviously Quincy Williams and Sherwood and others and Quinn and stuff on the line played, really well against the run. So I think the biggest missing piece there was the fact that Leonard Taylor sat during the game, and he was a good run defender against the Patriots, so they should have just kept him up during this game. So that was a silly move. And I am pretty sure I commented this on social media at one point several times yesterday, but I think we're going to have to put Malachi Corley's face on the side of milk cartons because he's missing in action. Besides the fact that you have two big running backs you drafted in this year's draft, in Allen and Davis, and you could have used both of them in the goal line package when they had Max Mitchell and Solomon Thomas in, and then had the defense guessing as to which guy they were going to give the ball to, considering both of them could have probably run in, 1 yard and had that touchdown. So that's my biggest gripe with this freaking game. And I'm sure you'll agree with some of that. And let's hope we can turn it around, because otherwise I feel like we're going to get our freaking doors blown off in London against the Vikings. As always, go Jets.
Yeah, I know you've been leading the Malachi Corley train, and I'm sure you saw it, Peter, but I'll reference it on the show if anyone didn't see it. I did a video yesterday on why I think the Jets need to start implementing Malachi Corley more. Frankly, I think one of my frustrations this year has been how it kind of feels like Xavier Gibson was handed this return role and like a more prominent role as a wide receiver. And he really hasn't done a whole lot. Like, I know it was kind of controversial last year to say that, like, outside of that first game of the year, Xavier Gibson really didn't do anything as a returner. And I give him all the credit in the world. There's a huge part of that win over Buffalo in week 1, but really did not do a whole lot after that. And I don't know why he is a better option. I don't think he's a better option. And if the Jets were so high on Malachi Corley that they began trying to trade up for him in the second round, they claimed that he was the number 4 wide receiver on their board, which is insane. But if you're going to make that claim, don't play him 2 snaps through 4 weeks. I said they were going to bring him on slow. This isn't what I meant, though. Like, when I said they're going to bring him on slow and he'll be better in the second half, I didn't mean 2 snaps through 4 weeks slow. I meant like maybe you'd have a handful of catches through the first 4 games, and then by like week 8, 9, he's catching 3 to 5 passes a game depending on the game script, and maybe rushing the ball a little bit. He's a complete non-factor, And when you can't move the ball, why not try to get someone who literally his nickname is the Yak King, the ball in his hands? Like, I just feel like they make it so much harder on themselves sometimes. It's again very frustrating. Main Jet is up next. He's got some Saleh thoughts too.
Hi, Matt. This is Main Jet calling. Just need to tell you that, well, I've been thinking forever that the last 3 years, and I'm pretty much on the same page as you, waiting to see Robert Saleh have a decent quarterback play and decent offensive line play to see what he could do. And yesterday was, well, the jury is in. He stinks. That was just the most deplorable effort I have ever seen before in my life, bar none. I've been saying this for a while now, and I don't understand. Why doesn't he take over the play calling? Because everybody knows that Nathaniel Hackett is the enemy of any sort of organized offense. He is just putrid when it comes to that. And even with Aaron Rodgers having like a 2 or 3 play selection, he couldn't even get out of it, for crying out loud, yesterday. This was awful. This was awful on every single front from an offensive standpoint. I am never going to blame the defense for anything they did yesterday. Giving up 10 points, that was a great victory for them. And, of course, as always, just like you said on your program today, that once again, it's the offense. It's the same problem that's been around for the last 3 or 4 years. I am just completely dumbstruck by how foolish Robert Saleh is with extra days to prepare. He has nothing in his tank. 195 to 92, 61 penalties, 2-7 after extra time to prepare. I mean, this should be the death sentence of any head coach. So that's my thing. I am done with Robert Saleh from here on out. I will never, ever support him again, and I am pretty much out on anything that the Jets are going to do this season because of Robert Saleh and because of his unwillingness to take over the play calling from Nathaniel Hackett. He stinks, and somebody should step in and do something about him. As always, go Jets.
You know, I don't necessarily disagree that Hackett should have his play calling duties stripped, but Saleh's never called offensive plays before. He's a defensive coach, and he doesn't call the defensive plays either. So I don't think it would be like Saleh taking away and him taking over the play calling. I think the only option would be to go to Todd Downing. I don't know if the Todd Downing's all that great, but different might be better. Remember that first half against Buffalo in 2020 when, what's his face? Oh my God, the little minion, Adam Gase's little guy. Oh my God, what the heck was it? Dowell Loggins. There we go. Dowell Loggins took over play calling for a half and like they were semi-functional. Maybe that's the move. This is just so messed up. And I don't know. Like, we can nitpick the defense, but that's what it is. It is nitpicking. Be like, oh, they allowed a touchdown. And yeah, it was a blown coverage. It was. There's no, it was unacceptable. They could be better in the run game. Yes. But once again, like, this is the same argument that I'd get into people a year ago. It was like, well, the defense has got to be better. It's like, well, they allowed 10 points and lost the game. Or they allowed 13 points to Atlanta and lost the game. Or they allowed 15 points to New England and lost the game. Like, that. This was the shit, sorry for the language, that was not supposed to happen anymore when you brought in Aaron Rodgers. And it's like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is going to fix everything. I think he'll fix a lot, and I think he will, again, carry them to a better record than 7-10. But I don't know, like, if their ceiling is Super Bowl with this coaching staff. That I don't know anymore. Phil from Texas is up next. He mentions a coach that he would like.
Hey, Matt, this is Phil from Texas. I have a concern with our coaches. I think Saleh and nepotism baby Hackett absolutely have to go. Brick, I think, is the only upside of all of these coaches we have. My question is, how many games are we going to have to lose before Woody picks up the phone and calls Braves to try to come and save us? Thanks for the show, brother.
Yeah, look, Woody Johnson's doesn't fire guys in season, so that would be like really, really, really shocking if he pulled the plug in season. But Mike Vrabel is absolutely someone that I would rather have coach this football team. I mean, he went 9-7, 9-7, 11-5, 12-5, 7-10, and 6-11, and the last 2 years was dealing with a injured Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill played 12 games. It wasn't very good in 2022. And then you had Malik Willis and Josh Dobbs starts. And then in 2023, they went 6-11 with Will Levis and Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill last year threw 4 touchdowns and 7 picks. And like his teams were always competitive. They were always in games. And I don't think they would be unprepared. I don't think we would ever see a Mike Vrabel coach team unprepared. And I think the best thing with Vrabel is he had that opportunity, right? He had success in this league. He had the year off as well, which is so important for these guys. A lot of times we see coaches, a lot of former Jets coaches actually, they leave, they have a little bit of success, they leave, and then they take a job right away, and it doesn't pan out really after that. Herm Edwards gets traded to the Chiefs, and they kind of, that flames out. I don't think he was there very long. I think 2 years. Eric Mangini goes to Cleveland. Doesn't work. Rex goes to Buffalo. Doesn't work. Very, very short things where we've seen guys, have some level of success, take a year, reevaluate, get back into it, and then have more success in the league after that. I do, but I don't want this to be the case because this year would be really underwhelming. But if, God forbid, like the Jets miss the playoffs and they blow this thing up or whatever, like, I don't know, a guy like Mike Vrabel, I really don't know if I want to go down the track of a first-time head coach again. A coordinator. It scares me a little bit. I feel like we've been burned by that a little bit with this high expectations. I feel like I want a coach, assuming that Rodgers would still be here in 2025 and most of this core is still here and the roster is going for it. I would like a coach who's had experience and winning experience and won playoff games. So I think Mike Vrabel would be at the top of my list there. But would he come? Whole nother question. I'm sure we'll talk about it at length later this year. Let's close with PG from Long Island.
Hello, Matt O'Leary. PG from Long Island here. Deja vu all over again. Same things that we've talked about. The Jets don't show up under Robert Saleh. They get out coached. Too many penalties. It's just horrible. All gas bag and no clue. All gas bag, no clue. How do you have a guy, second year in the league, first round pick, winds up offsides twice? How do you not have Raylan Allen in on first and goal? Every Jet fan who has any clue about what's going on with the Jets knew that he should be in there. My theory is that Nathaniel Hackett actually has Breece Hall in his fantasy league. And nothing else really makes sense to me. Just a horrible performance. All gas bag, no clue. The Jets are playing checkers while the opposing coaches are playing chess. And I don't give defense. They played well, yeah, but they got adjustment to the second half, and they're just getting run over. And how do you have Sutton, the only wide receiver who caught a pass in the game, get wide open third and goal in that key spot there? So even the defense, as well as they played, their coaches, I just don't understand it. And the problem here is that we have the small window with Aaron Rodgers, and the Jets' opponents so far are 6-10. They're 2-2 against 6-10 opponents. Now they have this tough schedule coming up, and I don't think the coaching staff's going to be able to lift them. And what's going to happen at the end of the year is, Woody Johnson's going to hit the reset button, and we're going to have a whole new coaching staff in here, which might not be the worst thing. Possibly a new GM, which you and I can argue about that at a later podcast. But this opportunity that we had, why would Aaron Rodgers even come back? Anyway, as always, Matt O'Leary, go Jets.
Yeah, I get your point that you're making at the end. Why would Rodgers come back? I don't think he'd want to go out like that. I think he'd want to go out proving people wrong and maybe give it one final go. But you bring up a very valid point where maybe it's like, you know what? This has run its course. Maybe it's just completely over at that point. They got to get this thing fixed and fixed quick. And this is a very, very, very tough next three. Very tough next 3 games. And I don't know if they have the coach for it, which is the exact point that you're making. And the offensive coordinator feels like he does not have a clue how to use his personnel. And that is a big problem. All that changes. All our pessimism changes with a big win against the Minnesota Vikings on the road in London. That's what we are hoping for this week. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Subscribe if you are new to the channel or if you're listening on the podcast platform. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review. I appreciate you. I'm Matt O'Leary. I'll catch you next time.